Welcome to Satsunami. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Satsunami. My name's Satsunami and joining me today all the way from France is the one and only Valentine. Val, welcome to Satsunami.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure having you because one of our mutual friends who goes by the name Wonko the Sane and has been on the Chinibio episode, fantastic guy. Yeah, he had recommended you to come on the show because of your many hobbies. So yeah, here we are. So how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. It is surprisingly very sunny in Scotland today. Would you believe that?
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
I
It's
can
a
actually.
miracle.
It's got. I mean, it was because now it's obviously going to be nighttime quite soon. But yeah, it was quite warm, which is nice for a change. How warm was it in Scotland today?
At least now it's about 11 degrees, which for us that's a heat wave.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
that is.
bad.
Yeah, that's like people out in their garden sunbathing. In fact, see, before I came on tonight, I'm pretty sure I smell a barbecue coming in, so someone's definitely.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. When I lived in the UK, when we had that kind of weather, people were just like out in shorts and flip flops. I can't sound surprised about the barbecues.
I mean, we've got in Scotland in particular a very bad, I don't want to say condition, but a bad epidemic of what we like to call tap-saff weather. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
No, so tap-saff weather is when usually it's like young or middle-aged men who decide, oh, there's the sun, let me take my top off. And they just walk around the streets just with their tops off. So we call that tap-saff weather. It is exactly the kind of person you think would participate, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. I can definitely picture that.
Yeah, it's like the typical, you know, the British tourist abroad. Yeah,
I
pretty
do
much
actually.
that archetype, as it were. I'm praying for rain tomorrow. That's all I'm
Really?
saying. No, I'm not actually. No, I'm like, for legal reasons, that's a joke.
I was like, just like you don't have to see someone with their tops off, or are you serious?
I know, it's the burden you have to bear in Scotland. It's like, do you want to see people with their tops off? Or do you want the sun, you know? You can't get a perfect balance in Scotland. Exactly. Oh, but no, I'm glad to hear the weather at least is keeping up relatively well over
Yeah.
there as well, yeah.
I live in the south of France actually, but we live quite high up, like not really like on a mountain, but kind of. And here it's actually really cold compared to like a city just like an hour away or something. In January, we were snowed in and I couldn't go to work. We couldn't go anywhere for about a week. And when I told that at my job, people were like, for real? Like, are you serious? I was like, I swear I'm not lying. I've never seen that much snow in my life, and it just, yeah, seems so weird. Because you picture, I mean, the south of France as somewhere where it's always kind of sunny, and I don't know, I feel like some people kind of think that it's kind of like California or something, which just absolutely is not in terms of weather. Because, yeah, I mean, that was the first surprise, to be honest.
That is fair though, because whenever you see the south of France, and this is me generalising, but you know, you always see the pictures of it being very warm and maybe not tropical, but you know, yeah, I totally know what you mean.
Yeah, like people sunbathing or
Yeah.
stuff like that, and no, it's cold. I mean, not everywhere, but it is definitely colder.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I was
that
going to
was the
say
weather
over it.
talk.
Yeah. Okay, that's the small talk part of the show out the
Okay.
way. It's like, how's the weather? I'm checking that off my bucket list. It's like, talk about the
We've done
weather
that.
on chat. Yeah, exactly. As we were talking about before, of course, you have a lot of hobbies, of course, and one of the main prominent ones is the fact that you are indeed a singer-songwriter. Is that correct in saying?
It is. I am, yeah. It's kind of funny because I think the first song that I wrote, I was like 8. It was just like words, like lyrics, and I was just like singing, just like that. So then my mom wanted me to play piano, and I was like, sure, I guess I'll do that. And I went to every single lesson for a year. Apart from the last one, I quit right before the end of the year because I was just terrified of my teacher. He was just like a big bald man and he's scared of me like you've no idea. And for people listening, I am really short, like a really small person, okay? And I've always been like the smallest kid in the class, kind of like the skinny small kid. And I just feel yeah, like I've always been that way. And I guess my personality, when especially when I was younger, kind of like really did fit my appearance, I guess, suppose. I was like really shy, and the teacher was always like, just play harder, you're not gonna break it. And every time I was like, oh my god, I was like crumbling on the inside or something. Just before the last lesson, I was like, I can't do it anymore. So I quit. And then I didn't really play music until I was 14 when I started playing guitar. And that's when I started like writing songs with music along with the lyrics. And now it's how many years later? Oh god, I'm old. 4, 5, 6, 7, 13 years. Yeah, it's been 13 years. So yeah.
Oh, that's a long time to be dedicated to it, right enough. Sorry, I was actually going to say when you said, oh, I'm old, I was going to say, yeah, you're amongst friends here. I know that feeling.
Oh yeah, a little bit before you're gonna turn 30, you're actually realizing you're not a teenager anymore, or like in your early 20s. It's that feeling of, am I actually an adult now?
Oh yeah, I still get those kind of existential moments where
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the car or I'm sitting in my house and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm a tax-paying home owner. What? When did this happen?
I've got responsibilities.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I've got a dog. I've
I
got
know,
bills
I
to
know.
pay. Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
oh no. As someone who's went over, and I want to emphasize this as of this episode, just went over the threshold of 30 last
Yeah.
year. Yeah, it's a scary prospect when you look
Is
back and you
it?
think,
How does it feel? How do you feel about it?
well, everything aches a lot more. I'll say that. Which is surprising.
Don't tell me that.
You know, people make the memes, they go, oh, my back's aching, oh, my this and that's aching. And sometimes you wake up and you get like a random ache you've never had. And I have to admit, I'm in that mindset. I'm like, well, this is the end for me.
Oh
I
no,
had a good
don't
run.
tell me that because I've been feeling that way for quite a while now. Sometimes, like, I wake up with a pain in my neck that I never had before. And
Oh, yeah, no, same. It's like you wake up in weird positions and, you know,
I
you
know.
wake up as if you've been, I don't know, cosplaying as a Tetris block. And you're like, how did I wake up like this?
Exactly. Well, I mean, I wanted to get new pillows just in case. I mean, I was blaming the pillow, not my age, but now I don't really know what to think anymore.
Further study required.
Exactly. I think I'll just get like another pillow just in case, and then we'll see. Is it me or is it just my bed that's not good enough?
Yeah. That is the question of the episode. Is it the bed or is it getting old? I expect the essay by the end of this episode to
I'll
those
try
listening,
my
so
best.
yeah.
We're all dying to know.
Yes. Going back to your musical journey there, oh god. The teacher thing, I know exactly what you mean. I had like a teacher who was very much quite strict, but I wouldn't say like whiplash strict. You know, it wasn't so much like it wasn't like yelling in our faces or anything, but I feel as if it was a form of psychological torture.
Oh, I definitely get what you mean.
Oh, you had to play like the same notes over and over again and I know that's how practice works, but you know, you had to play things like O Sole Mio, Master of the House from Les Mis.
Oh, okay.
That's why I hate that song. Or not hate it, but dislike it to a passion because there's nothing that will kill your love for a song than about 30 kids in the same room playing it over and over again off
Oh,
key.
yeah.
I was actually inspired to start my own revolution at that point. I was like, you know what? How hard could it be to get my hands on a flag and just start causing chaos? I'm like, it can't be that hard. So I totally see what you mean there. The thing is, though, it can be quite daunting when you have something that is more in an academic situation rather than, as you said, you've obviously continued writing and singing
Mhm.
past school and
Yeah.
everything. But would you say there's a difference between when you were studying it initially in school versus now that you've got that freedom?
Yes and no. It is because just the songs in themselves are quite different because obviously I write autobiographic. I'm not really good at like storytelling. I'm not definitely not like a Bruce Springsteen type of writer. So obviously I don't really have the same worries or stuff like that as I guess as 15-year-old me. So in that sense they are different, and there are actually a lot of songs that I wrote when I was a teenager that I don't play anymore because, well, to be quite frank, they were not that good and I just can't relate to them anymore as well. There are actually some that I do still play, do really still enjoy. I thought that I would have maybe more time as because, you know, like you're a kid and you think, oh, like, I have to do homework and stuff like that. But actually you do have a lot more time as a kid in school than as a working adult. And so yeah, the time thing is definitely a lot different because it was definitely a lot harder these last few years to actually find the time to dedicate to songwriting because I don't know, I have this thing with time. I'm not very good at managing it, I suppose. It's always been like really difficult for me. For example, we're supposed to start recording at 8 p.m. my time. At 7, I was like, stop everything. I have to do something in 1 hour. And so even though I would have had the time to actually do something, I feel like I can't because there's something like around the corner and it's difficult. I mean, I don't know if I know it's definitely not the case for everyone, but yeah, like time management is definitely like very difficult. But I have actually started working part-time and not full-time as of this year. So I've actually had a lot more time to dedicate to that, but also just the fact that being out of school and being an adult, I feel like I have more, it's easier in a way to reach out to people and maybe I feel a little bit more confident as well. And just say like you've got a gig, now I actually have a car to go there and I don't really have to ask my mom, could you drive me there? So definitely have a little bit more freedom there as well.
Goodness, no, I totally see what you mean about time
Yeah.
management because you're completely right. When you are younger, you do feel as if you have almost all the time in the world. You know, you
Yeah,
think, oh, and
definitely.
again, not to get too deep, apologies, but you know, you think, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, oh, I've got all this time. And then one day you
Hmm.
wake up and you're like, oh my God, my joy's sake, I'm 30. Oh no.
Exactly. I've got to take the dog out. I've got to, I don't know, like for grocery shopping, like stuff that you just did not do as a kid. You had to go to school and you had to do homework and you thought that that was your whole world. I mean, because it was. And there's just so much more than that now. So, yeah. But yeah, I've always been bad at like, I'm managing time. I've always been like a big procrastinator. Even in doing like exams, I was like, sometimes for like 15 minutes just looking at the ceiling or something. It was really hard for me to actually like concentrate and you have something to do it. This last few years I haven't been as active musically as I would have liked. Also because of COVID, because slightly before COVID, I actually saved money enough to actually live on for like a year and a half or 2 years. And I was like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to move to a bigger city and just try and play music for as long as I have money and then see what happens. But at that time, I was 23, and then COVID happened, and I couldn't do any of that, and I didn't have a job, so I had to leave. So I had to actually live off the money that I had saved. And so when COVID ended, I did have to get a job. See what I mean? And so I got a bit. I mean, I just feel like I got kind of like fucked over by COVID, to be honest. Because I mean, as so many other people, but like I had a plan. I was like, okay, like I'm going to like try and do this professionally as much as possible, and because I've got nothing to lose. I don't have, as we mentioned, dogs. I have 2 dogs and a cat. I didn't have them back then. I was single. I had myself to take care of, and that was it. And so, which is enough already. Don't get me wrong, but it's like no one was like depending on me, and so like now's the time. Let's do it. And then COVID happened. So yeah, that was unfortunate. But now that I'm, you know, like working part-time and actually I'm going to have a little bit more time, even a little bit more time now, I think I'm just gonna try and get gigs and play as much as possible. Not necessarily trying to do it as like my main job, but at least if that's like one of my, let's say if I have like 2 part-time jobs and one of them is music, then that's good enough for me, you know. That's definitely kind of the goal right now, out of the whole post-COVID rush of having to get a job and get a new place to live and stuff like that.
A lot of people listening in the future probably will have no idea how
Mm-hmm.
bad it was, probably in hindsight. You know, I mean, like people born after the 2020s being like, oh, what was
Oh.
COVID? What was this pandemic? Why were you all hiding in your houses and things like
Oh my
that? Because
god.
I totally know what you mean about having plans and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Because I remember I had plans. I thought, okay, this is going to be the year I'm going to get get my act together. I'm going to go traveling. I'm going to
I
save up money. I'm
know.
going to do this. I was even going to visit my friend slash co-host in Canada. I was like, I was going to go places. Well, I
Yeah.
say that. I mean that in the most humble way possible. I mean, literally go places. Yeah. Yeah, just in case anyone's listening going, wow, look at him, he's so full of himself. I'm like, no,
Oh
I
no,
literally
no,
need to
no,
get from
no.
point A to B.
I get that.
Yeah, I ended up, of course, much like everyone else, we were all trapped in our homes and things, and it was just a weird time because, on the one hand, it is like a horrible, horrible moment of a lot of people's lives, but weirdly enough, without COVID, I don't think things like the podcast, like this particular show, would have existed without it. I mean, it might have maybe in the future, maybe in some capacity, but not as prevalent as it was back then. And it is weird how that was like a moment that a lot of people seem to be affected by it in terms of their creative outputs, especially with some of the creators that I've talked to before. A lot of them started Twitch streaming or creating their content during that time. So I'm just curious, in terms of your musical career, did you feel as if your music was affected by that period of your life?
Not that much, to be honest, because like the things that I was writing about, like I didn't write about like feeling isolated because of COVID and stuff like that. Like the stuff that I wrote about were more like issues that I had before or just feelings and stuff like that that were definitely not related to me being stuck in a house. That didn't really have anything to do with that, I think. Simply because I think that I'm someone that's quite like I do better on my own most of the time. I'm someone that's like it's really tiring for me to be around people for quite long periods of time, and I'm the kind of person that's sometimes being like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't tonight, I can't go out, I'm just gonna read my book. So that aspect, just being locked up in your house, was not difficult for me, and so I didn't really write about that. I tend to write about things that like songwriting for me is definitely like an outlet. There's a lot of things that are just like overwhelming, and like I just need to get it out, and it kind of becomes a song. And COVID was frustrating, as I mentioned before, because I had plans and I couldn't do any of that. I couldn't carry on. But creatively, it didn't really affect me. It didn't really affect my songwriting, but I had more time to play music, obviously. And so that's when I actually recorded my first EP, was during lockdown.
Yeah, I can imagine you must have had obviously tons of time. It's one of those rare things, isn't it, where the whole world was pretty much the same, that everyone was just locked in your house, which just feels weird that nowadays that's been, 3 years as of this episode?
Yeah, I'd say so, but maybe more than that. I mean, it depends, because a lot of people thought that COVID was over 4 years ago or something, or and some people think it's not even really over, so it's definitely subjective, I'd say.
Because I know it's still technically there and everything, but the
Mhm.
lockdowns are like, I'll be fine, just go outside, you'll be fine, you'll be alright. I actually always remember before I started like doing a job where I worked from home, I used to go into this office, and I remember during that time there was like a lot of people who were quite scared about it and everything, and as silly as it sounds to boost everybody's mood, because I used to like bake and everything and bring it into the office, I was like, oh, I'll bake a cake. The next day, our Prime Minister announced that, oh, by the way, lockdown's effective right about now, and I was like, oh shit, I've lost my cake tin. I never saw that cake tin again. I don't know if it's been binned, or I hope it was binned, because I don't want to think of like this. I mean, obviously now it's all opened up and everything, but I don't want to think of this like cake tin just rotting away in the corner.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that was a terrible side tangent, but
Oh, no, it's fine, don't worry about it.
but in terms of your music, because I feel as if this isn't something that I've touched on yet, but what kind of music do you play? What kind of music do you create?
I play again. Like it's kind of sound like pretentious or something. I was just about to say it's kind of hard to define, but it's extremely pretentious. I suppose I play kind of indie folk, indie rock type music, like a lot of reverb, I guess. I like reverb. But it's definitely like, we used to be, I mean, as of now, it's like guitar and voice. And because in my mind, I just had like this really like minimalistic approach. I thought, or I used to think that what I put out online, like recordings and everything for people to listen to, had to be what I was able to recreate live. And so that's why, as I am a solo act, I thought that it must only be like a guitar and a voice. And it's been like that for 2 years, or maybe like a year and a half. I used to think that way until now. Like a few months ago, I've actually started to add like more vocals and more guitar parts, and then now I'm actually working on a new song with actually drums and maybe other instruments, I don't know yet, but it's still the same kind of like indie, I suppose, like indie rock type of vibe. I guess that's kind of how I would define it. Also kind of quite sad, because I remember there was this song that I sent to a bunch of people a few months ago, and and one guy, I can't remember, like I sent that to like a few radio stations and like small labels and stuff like that, because as I mentioned, like I make everything, like I write and I perform and I record everything on my own. And so having an outsider's opinion is actually quite important, because sometimes like you just get too much, you just need like somebody's advice. So this person replied to me, he said, musically it's quite good, it's interesting, it's definitely very sad, a lot more sad than I would like, but if it's your vibe, keep going. I was like, oh wow, okay. So I guess you could say sad indie music.
I mean, that is still an achievement if, you're getting that much feedback from it. Something you were saying earlier about when you were saying you were getting like lifts to gigs and things. How does that feel playing in front of a live audience?
It definitely used to be terrifying, but it's weird because it's in a way kind of like a double-edged sword, because feeling wise, not literally, because it used to be like something that I was so passionate about that I just really wanted to do. And so the fear of messing up in front of a lot of people wasn't strong enough to refrain me from actually doing so, like playing a live gig. Something that I've actually started to do, I've actually started to take singing lesson, because I never had. And a lot of people have told me, like, you sound great, but you need to be more confident. And I was like, okay, I need help. And so I started taking singing lesson. And that's something that I haven't played a gig since, though. And that's definitely something that I think is definitely like working. So I'm interested to see how that will evolve. But yeah, it used to be very terrifying. I remember when I was 18, I played this gig for like a benefit event. Can't remember for what. There was obviously very little people. It was like a small town and they were expecting more people, but there was like, I don't know, like 15 people, maybe not even, in the room. So I played and there was no PA. The guy that contacted me, that I was in contact with, told me, like it's going to be like a full PA set and everything. You don't need to bring anything. And I was like, cool. There was no mic, no nothing. And I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. So I did the best I could, and there was this, I always remember, I can't exactly remember his face, but just like the way that he was sitting, there was this guy sitting in the front row with his arms crossed and just, I don't know, like a big old guy. It sounds bad, but I'm just saying how he was very physically intimidating. Maybe I should say that. And he kept looking at me with like zero facial expressions, nothing. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is just hating his life right now. And afterwards, he actually came up to me and he was like, that was quite good what you did there. I enjoyed it. And I was like, whoa. Honestly, I was so surprised because he just looked like he was hating his life. And he came up to me and was like, good job. And I was like, oh man, you don't know how much that's meant to me. Thank you. So yeah, it's scary in a way playing live, but only like before you do it. I feel like when you're playing, you definitely make mistakes, but they're not that important. It depends on the mistake, obviously, and how you actually react to them. But a lot of people don't pay attention to like the slightly mistake that you're actually going to make. Like you messed up a chord for 2 seconds before you actually like did it right. You sang that part slightly out of key, but people don't really pick up on it. And if they do, I feel like at least, just live music is what it is and it's honest and you can't fake it. So yeah, it's definitely like a big, I don't know, I don't want to say high because it sounds weird and it's not like that. I mean, not that I've ever experienced that before, but anyways, it's, I don't know, you feel good afterwards. You feel like you've done
Yeah.
something good. Like, give yourself a pat on the back. Good job. You did good.
No, I totally know what you mean. Because I think it was a couple of episodes ago, one of my friends was saying like a very similar thing. We were talking about D&D or something, something very totally not nerdy at all. And he was saying the same idea that if you're like in control of something or you're supposed to be the expert, whether you're controlling like a game of D&D or in your case, whether you're the musician in the room, and if you do something, because I've done this plenty of times as well, where I've messed up something, I've gone, I can't believe I've done that, I can't believe this has gone wrong, that's gone wrong, did you hear the balancing in that episode, and all of this. And then, other people who are listening to your content, they think, oh no, I thought that was great. And you're like, you're just being polite, you're just being polite. And they're like, no, I didn't. So I totally see what you mean when, as you said, you think you've done like a minor mistake and think, oh no, it's awful. And then, as you said, you've got that lovely, lovely yet intimidating man coming up to you and being like, oh yeah, great, fantastic.
Yeah, honestly, that was lovely. Like, really was not expecting that. It's one of the best memories I have, I think, to be honest. It was, yeah, it was great. Because it was so unexpected and it was so reassuring as well.
It is quite surprising because I feel as if, I mean, I suppose no matter how small or big you are in terms of like content creation, it feels really nice. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way when someone comes up to you and says, oh, I loved your music or I loved this or that you created. But do you feel as if it's something that a lot of people, they are not really as forthcoming, but they don't really think about it? Like they'll listen to your music or they'll consume a bit of content, say to themselves, oh, that was good. And, they'll like walk away, but they won't really, I mean, obviously not everyone, but they might not think that it's as important to actually go up to, for example, yourself and say, oh, that was some great music.
It's interesting because I feel like it depends on the person and maybe how much they enjoyed it or how much they were affected by it. I think it really depends on a person. And also that there's just people that are shy, and also there are also people that think, oh, she doesn't care what I think. Who am I to tell that person anything about what they are doing? A lot of people think that they are actually not entitled to, like give their opinions on what you're creating. Whereas a lot of people, sorry, that shouldn't feel this feeling of entitlement to actually comment on everything that you do, sometimes to tell you things that they should have kept to themselves. But I'm sure you see what I mean.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. No, you're totally right. It's definitely just depends on your audience, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. For me, it's a little bit tricky because people mostly comment on the voice or the sound because I write in English, but I so far have only played in a non-English speaking country. And so I expect a lot of people can't actually relate to anything that I'm saying because they don't really like understand it. And so maybe there's like this barrier, maybe a little bit. But yeah, I don't know because a lot of English speaking artists are really big in France, so I don't know.
Do you feel as if, though, it's easier because you were saying how your songs, obviously, since you're writing them, they're very personal to you and your journey in life and things like that. Do you feel as if it's easier to sing those songs in English when you're up in front of like a French speaking audience? Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying they all don't understand, but I know what you mean in terms of they're probably not going to get it the same as either a native speaker or someone who is like really fluent in English. So, do you feel as if it's like easier to sing your songs in English to those kind of audiences?
Yeah, maybe. Definitely at first, because as a performer, just wearing your heart on your sleeve can be a bit daunting, I think. So it's definitely, I think, easier. Or it used to be easier. Now I don't really care that much anymore. I've definitely grown more confident into what I'm doing. I didn't used to be though, and so yeah, I think putting out music in English in a not English speaking country was a little bit liberating because like, okay, it's out there and not that many people are going to actually, which is again a double-edged sword, because not that many people are going to connect to it, but you want the people to actually be able to appreciate what you've done in its entirety. So maybe it used to be easier, but now it's a little bit frustrating, I'd say.
I could just imagine you singing about something very, poignant and quite, it means a lot to you, and then you see a couple of people in the audience like banging their head going, woo, catchy song. And it's like, no, that's not the message here. It's like, do you know what it reminds me of? You know how you get very catchy, for example, I think this is probably the common one, but you get catchy anime songs that are in Japanese only, but they're like very upbeat and everything, and
Oh
people go,
yeah.
yeah, this is such a catchy song. Oh, I love this song. What's it about? And it's about like a very serious societal issue or something.
Oh
And you're
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
well, I won't be bopping to that in the car. Yeah.
I don't know. I definitely get what you mean. I've seen that people do that before too. A lot of lyrics. For example, there's that song. What's that song? Another Day in Paradise. I mean, you know that song, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or just because of the piano part in the beginning, but like the catchy part. It's very catchy and it is really good. But people here tend to think that it's a kind of like an upbeat, maybe not necessarily happy, but not like a sad song, and not about like a serious thing. Like the guy's talking about paradise. It must be nice, right? Because they're definitely like a lot of words, but like the most is a transparent or common one that people understand here. So yeah, like, oh, Another Day in Paradise, what a nice song. And it's actually about it's about a homeless person being ignored, and just like homeless people just being treated badly, and then facing just how rough life is. So yeah, it was so weird when like I've seen people definitely kind of like being happy, kind of dancing to that song, and I'm like, oh my god, what are you doing?
It's that moment when you're just looking and you're like, please don't bop your head, or
Oh my god, exactly. Don't look happy. Like, sing it if you want to, enjoy it, but not that way.
because one of the ones that actually comes to mind thinking about
Uh-huh.
like French songs is, I mean, you'll know him better than me, not personally, obviously, but is it Stromae?
Oh yeah.
Is he Belgian?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, okay, no, that's good. That's okay then. I just wanted to double check. But I know he's got a particular song called, and apologies if I'm butchering the pronunciation, I
Don't worry
swear to
about it.
God, I did do standard grade French. That was I tried higher, I wasn't great at French.
Oh, it's a difficult language.
Oh, it really is. Like, yeah, it's a beautiful language, but my God.
Well, so people say, but when it's your native language, you don't really see that, I suppose. You don't hear it like the outsiders, so it's a little bit different. But sorry, you were
Yeah, no,
talking
no.
about.
No, that's fine. No, I was just going to say, just on a side tangent before I get on to that point, when I was learning Spanish, I always remember I had a pen friend who I was talking to, and I was saying, oh, why do you have two verbs to be? And why do you have this? Why do you have that? And then they'll come back immediately, and especially my girlfriend as well, she'll say things like that. She'll say, why do you say this in English? Why do you say that in English? And I just look at them and I'm like, I
Because.
don't know. Yeah, because something I didn't realise until like I met my girlfriend. I didn't realise that I spoke in a lot of, idioms and things like that. And that way it's just you're so used to it and you're like, oh yeah, 6 and half a dozen, and they're like, wait, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
But yeah, but sorry, going back to France, apologies. Stromae had a song, I think it was in 2013, called Papa Ute.
Oh yeah. It's the only song of his I'm actually familiar with. I know
Yeah, oh
he's
thank goodness.
really big, but I don't really listen to the radio or anything, and even like his music, like I can appreciate what he's doing, but it's not really my vibe. So I'm not that familiar with his like recent stuff, but definitely like that single Papote was definitely like a big song. And keep going.
Yeah, no, I always remember when I went through my phase, or well, I say phase, sorry, when I started like restudying French
Yeah.
after, and I use this very loosely, just for fun to try and get back into it, and I really need to get back into it someday, I swear. I'm terrible at procrastinating, but I always remember listening to a lot of French songs, and Stromae was one of the artists that
Mhm.
was recommended, was popped up,
Yeah.
and I remember listening to it. And I know if you separate the title, it literally
Mhm.
translates as
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
"Dad, Where Are You?" It's a
Oh,
very
yeah.
catchy song, you know, it's very upbeat, it's like really good. But I remember this is terrible because the whole song is basically about, just quickly looking at the notes here, it's like, you know, about a boy who lives with his mum and is wondering when his dad will come back,
Mhm.
and you know,
Mhm.
like it's very serious.
It is.
There's a message behind it, like a very serious
Mhm.
message.
Oh, yeah.
And I always remember, I don't know what show it was, if it was like an American award show or something, but he ends up singing it with, and this was live, he sang it with, of all people, Will I Am from the Black Eyed Peas. That
Okay.
was an that was an experience. I was just sitting there like, oh, that was it. Sorry, it was the NRJ Music Awards.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it was 2013, where he sang it with Will I Am. All I'll say is look it up on YouTube, because the way I'll describe it, it won't do it justice. Because you watch it and you go, this is not a fit. And it's just, I know, sorry, that's a long winded way to say, like, I know what you mean when it's like you're trying to sing about a particular message and then you've got someone trying to parrot the same lyrics back to you, but
Oh, yeah.
it's like obviously the message is literally here is lost in translation, because you're saying the words but you're not meaning the words.
Yeah, like you don't really know what it means and how touching or deep or personal and serious that subject actually is.
Kind of just as a final question, what would you say, because you've talked about, you know, your journey through learning it through school, developing as an artist and everything. I swear to goodness, I don't mean this as a kind of like interview to be like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? But you know, that old chestnut of an interview question. But yeah, where do you see yourself going in the future with your songwriting? Because obviously, I know you said like it is a personal thing. I don't expect you to be like, oh, I'm going to write a song about this or that. But where do you see yourself going with it?
I feel like right now, I'm honestly like, it's going to sound so pretentious again. I'm not, I'm like the most down to earth person that you could ever meet. I feel like I'm kind of at a pivotal moment, I suppose, because right now, my day job, it's kind of like definitely like taking a turn, and I'm going to have a lot more time actually to just focus on what I actually care about, which is music. And the fact that it's the only thing that I want to be doing and the only thing that actually makes me happy. I've just had like this realization, you know, that this is just what I need to be doing. And so, like, if I don't try my best for at least a couple of years and see if I can actually make a living out of it, to me, that's like making as much as like a regular part-time job. Like that would be enough. I'm not asking for, like, I'm not a very ambitious person, but even though like I fully admit making a living out of your art is definitely a very ambitious. So hopefully in 10 years, that's what I'll be doing. I don't see myself as like a big artist or anything like that. And that's definitely not what I'm looking for. But honestly, if I'm able to actually tour and like play shows outside of France, I suppose that's kind of where I see myself in 10 years, maybe. Like, I mean, hopefully that's what I want to be doing in 10 years, you know, still playing and writing, but maybe writing for other people as well, because that's definitely something that I feel like I can do. And sometimes you can make way more money that way. Again, that's not what I'm looking for, but I mean, I do have rent to pay and dogs to feed, so I think it's the only thing that I think I'll still like carry with me, like no matter how old I am or anything, you know, like in 10 years or 20 years, is still what I'm going to be doing. So yeah, hopefully it'll be professionally in 10 years. We'll see. But that's definitely something that I am working towards right now.
Well, all I can say is I can't wait for you to come back in a couple of years onto this show. Well,
Oh, I'd
that is
love
if you're
to.
not too famous.
Oh, please
I'll be
don't.
I'll be messaging you saying, "Oh, would you want to come back on?" And your agent will be saying, "No, no, no, Val
Oh
doesn't have
no,
time. No, no,
just
not today."
no, just don't
Yeah.
say that.
Too busy touring in Germany and Spain
Oh
and,
my
you know,
god,
the other
no.
warm part of France, you know, where there's no snow. But no, I know what you mean. It's obviously hard to know where you're going to go with, or not where you're going to go, but more so what the future's going to hold, because as we talked about in depth earlier, I mean, none of us expected COVID and the pandemic and everything to happen. No one expected the lockdowns. I mean, there was literally no way to predict that, so I'm not willing another pandemic into existence. God, touch wood here, but yeah, the future will be interesting, right enough. But honestly, I sincerely hope for the best for it, because let's face it, it can only go up.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that's what I mean as well. Like, I mean, as I said, I have dogs to feed, but that's it. Like, I don't have kids. I'm not really planning on it, so no one really depends on me. So I feel like now's the time, and that's what I meant to do before COVID anyway. So might as well.
Sounds like a good plan, to be honest.
We'll see, like I'll give it a few years and then I don't know, do something else, find another part-time job, but it definitely will always be at least a part-time job, or always like at least treat it that way, I suppose. So yeah.
Well, that sounds good to me, to be honest. On that note, Val, thank you so much for coming on and
Well,
just
thanks for
sharing
having
your
me.
journey.
That was great.
No, honestly, I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. That was cool. I enjoyed it.
Before we finish up, though, is there any social media pages or anything that the lovely listeners at home can follow your content on?
Oh, sure. Well, if you want to listen to the music that I make, it's up on any streaming platform like Spotify, Apple Music, any of that, even YouTube. And I post I've started posting small clips of me playing music, or like parts of songs that I've written and stuff like that on Instagram. So yeah, like your classic social media platforms, I suppose.
Thought I should just double check, because I don't want you talking about this and then people are like, wow, that was a great interview. Wait, where's the music? But no, once again, Val, thank you so much for coming on. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, if any of you would like to listen to our previous episodes, or hopefully future episodes with Val on, you can catch the Satsunami podcast over on our website, podpage.com/Chatsunami. I also would like to give a huge shout out to our Pandalorian patrons, Robotic Battle Toaster and Sonia. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And yeah, without any further ado, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated. This episode is sponsored by Zencastr. If you're a podcaster that records remotely like me, then you'll know how challenging it can be to create the podcast you've always wanted. That's where Zencastr comes in. Before I met Zencastr, I was but a naive podcaster, recording on low quality, one-track audio waves. But with Zencastr, you can kiss those fears goodbye, as they provide crystal clear audio and HD video. Plus, with our all-in-one podcasting suite, recording with guests is extremely simple. From local recordings to post-production, Zencastr has it all. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code CHATSUNAMI. You'll get 30% off your first 3 months of Zencastr Professional. I want you to have the same easy experience I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.